was going through your head on that trip?
um, Terror, complete surreal that is this really happening? Um, it's it's the worst. Your whole body goes into shock and numb. You're just numb.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to True Crime Unsolved. I'm Miles Reef. I'm here as always with my buddy Sean Cahill. This is the place where we tackle the stories that the TV networks won't touch. Unsolved homicides, missing persons cases, stories without an ending. Sean, what are we getting into today?
Hey, Miles. So today we are following up on the Liam Toman missing persons case from Quebec, Canada. Last week you saw us do the case breakdown on that, and if you haven't seen it yet, maybe consider pausing and watching that first because we're going to give you the whole story in a nutshell. And then this video is going to be a deep dive interview with Liam's mom, Kathleen. As you guys know, you viewers of this channel especially, there's so much to learn from the family side of things in these stories that the case breakdowns don't touch, right? The intimate personal details of Liam's life, his friendships, what he was doing the night that he disappeared. You're going to learn a lot about it here. Kathleen, super impressive person. I don't want to spoil too much, but I think she's one of these really inspiring parents that hearing like what her family's doing and how they're handling the situation, it made me very proud of them. You know, this is not an easy thing to be going through, but I think they're doing everything right, Miles. I mean, how did you feel?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we always say that you see different outcomes when people go missing or people get murdered. And sometimes it brings families closer together. Sometimes it brings the best out of people. Sometimes it breaks them, right? And I think Sean and I have seen all facets of that in our careers. What's interesting, I think, with Liam's family is that his parents were already divorced when he went missing. But it sounds like they had a pretty decent working co-parent relationship, and they have been, working together on every aspect of this from the moment that, they knew that something bad had happened, and, sort of cooperating and working together. And I do think that that shows that, they're strong and it's bringing out the best in them. So, a lot can be learned from the way that they're handling it and the way that they're dealing with the authorities and the way that they're bringing in their own resources and all of that. I think there's a lot to learn here.
Right on. Well, this is a really great interview, so I don't want to take up too much more time with the preamble. Miles, if you're good, I say let's bring everybody straight to Kathleen.
So, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. I'm sure you got a lot going on. Why don't we just start really simply? Just sort of tell the audience who you are and why we're speaking with you today.
Great, thanks. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that you're taking this on and sharing Liam's story. Liam Toman is my son, and he went missing February 2nd, 2025, from the Mont-Tremblant ski resort. Um, Liam was there on a ski trip with two of his friends, Kyle and Colin, and it was a ski trip that he had organized since the fall before. It was a weekend ski trip, sort of an extended weekend, and he was very excited about the ski trip with his buddies. And the Saturday night, after a day of skiing and après ski, that evening, he disappeared. He didn't make it back to his hotel, and that's why we're here to talk about this and keep the awareness. And it's a very active investigation still going on, and we're hoping to find some more clues and help the SQ, which is the Quebec police, to solve this.
I guess the best place to start, Kathleen, is why don't we talk a little bit about Liam? Because, you've kind of laid out the nutshell of why we're talking, but let's get to know your son a little bit, and then we'll get into the events leading up to his disappearance, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your son. What kind of a guy was he?
So Liam is, it's such a hard question when you ask that because I could go on for so long. He's funny, he's hilarious, he's great at the one-liners. He just finished his college. He was at Niagara College. He lived in Thorold, just outside of St. Catharines in the Lofts. He lived with some guys that went to Brock in the Lofts, and he took electronic tech. So he was very, very techie guy. I mean, he could like fix anything electronic. You just give it to him and he figures it out. He's also very creative. He's always been a creative guy with music. He worked on some music just for himself. He worked on some music and some beats, and he finished school and he was living up here. I live up in the Kawartha area. He had a summer job that he was working like as maintenance for a small resort, like an Airbnb type. And so he could, continue his one of his passions, golf. He loves golf. That's one of his passions. Skiing is another one of his, but golf. So he continued on even after the summer was over and worked till December. That's just before he went missing in the February. And I mean, it was a hard job. He didn't come home happy every day because it was really tough work. But he did enjoy it enough to stay longer in the summer. And we live here. There's no Uber here. There's no
Right.
Uber Eats. There's no fast food. And he would go back down to his father's and stepmom's place, Chris and Laura. They live down in Whitby. On the weekends to see his buddy sometimes, or if there was something special going on, and he would get his fill of McDonald's and sushi. He was a very good cook. He would be making stuff, whipping stuff up here in the kitchen or barbecuing, in the middle of the night. He could cook anything. Steak was his favorite to cook, of course, but he could whip up anything. So, you'd rather be talking to him right now. He's just a guy full of so many interesting stories and knows so much about everything. Just a complete delight.
Sounds
I
like
mean,
an
he would
awesome
not like me
guy.
to say that word, delight.
Well, I don't think any red-blooded young man would want to be known as a delight. But
I
when your
know,
mother's
I
saying
know,
it, that's a
I
good
know.
thing.
I'm just thinking, there's so many great words to
Yeah.
describe Liam. So Liam, so what was happening right then? So he had this ski trip planned, and then when he got back from the ski trip, the what he was working on was looking for a role in his career, what he went to school for. So that was the goal, because he stopped his job that he had for that summertime job, and he already started sending out resumes and connecting with people. And that was in the January. And then he said, okay, I'm going to take a trip, and then I'm just going to focus on that to get, into my career.
Interesting.
And that's what it was, because you need to take a break after 3 years of schooling. Why not? And I was all for that.
For sure. So this trip was kind of the last hurrah, and then he was going to start gearing into like his adult career and what he had gone to school for, it sounds like.
Correct. Yes.
How long had they been planning this trip? I know you mentioned that.
He started it was November, in the fall.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they might have been talking about it a little bit earlier, but I knew more of the exact plans more in November.
Now, are you comfortable sort of talking about who was on the trip and who he had been planning the trip with?
Yes, yeah. These are two guys that he's known, one of them from public school and high school. They're acquaintances, Colin and Kyle. He knows them very well. He doesn't hang out with them all the time, but they're very good friends from way back, and they're snowboarders and skiers that he's been on other, to Blue Mountain and skiing with. And they wanted to have a way trip to the mountain.
Fantastic. And is this something that he had done frequently, either with them or with other friends? Like, was he always going off on ski trips, or was this kind of a special occasion?
So for ski trips, his sister and myself were skiers, and we would go on ski trips. Say for March break, we would go away on ski trips. We would go down to Stowe or Vermont somewhere. Were skiers, like weekend skiers, for years since they were little. Liam tried hockey, but he preferred skiing, so we continued skiing since they were very little. He's an
Okay.
excellent skier.
So he kind of grew up in it. It was
Yes,
something. And
yeah.
and I would imagine where you guys live, uh everybody there's a lot of snow and it's a pastime, you know. It's like if you
It's
grew
a
up in
it's a
California,
Canadian
you skate,
Canadian
right?
pastime, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You grew up where I grew up in New York, you play basketball, and you know where Sean grew up, you skateboard, and if you grew up in Canada, you ski, or snowboard, I would imagine. I mean, it sounds like Liam was a very normal, just happy, well-adjusted kid. I mean, was there anything, any sort of red flags with him, or anything that was lurking in the background that you had to think about when this sort of disappearance happened?
Yeah, no. So yes, meaning the police and SQ ask us all these questions, and we go deep dive into if there was any mental health issues and that. Absolutely not. No mental health issues. We contacted Liam's doctor, sent in all the reports over the years. No depression, no mental health issues, no concerns there. And also, you talk to Liam's friends and all his friends to make sure there isn't something that maybe a parent doesn't know, because parents don't know everything. How would they know everything? You think
Of
you
course.
have completely open relationship, and you look through everything. Um, I did look through every square inch of Liam's room to see if there was something, a clue of something. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Liam and I have a good open talking relationship, and I know he does with his father too. So I didn't see anything. You still have to investigate all open hypothesis if there's something.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting because everybody does have their private life, right? That maybe your parents don't know everything about, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're living a secret life. That's kind of a different connotation. And it sounds like after talking to his friends and everybody who really knew him, there also wasn't like drug problems or any of these other kind of things you see sometimes that's like a friction in someone's life before something like this happens. But Liam seemed like a pretty clean cut kid who was on a normal trip, right? To snowboard and
Right,
hang out for a weekend. So that's what
right.
makes this so baffling. Um, there's just nothing to latch onto as far as, aha, oh, that's weird. What was he, which you do see, but not here.
No.
No, it is such a mystery, and we just can't put the pieces together of how this would happen. I mean, like when you look at the 20 minutes or so when Kyle went back from the bar, and I've been to the bar, and you can get lost very easily from who you're with at the bar when it's very busy. It's the après ski bar place to go to in Tremblant. I'm not sure if you guys have been there. Uh, and for him to leave to go, I mean, the Tremblant ski village is just so small and quaint to leave and to go to your hotel. It just seems like you would naturally be able to do that. It's like a convention center, but open in the outside. So you would be easily be able to walk it. And then to disappear in that, it just does not make any sense. And
I,
then
I was looking at the map, Kathleen. Sorry to interrupt you, and
yes,
you're right. I mean, I looked at it today before the interview just to like really refamiliarize myself, and it's unbelievable how short of a walk this was from where he last was to his hotel. It's a
correct.
block, really, if you think about it. We'll put
It
up a
is.
graphic now. I mean, we can put that up so people can see it.
Yes,
It's hard to
It is a
imagine.
block. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's not even a big city block. It's a regular city block because it's not a New York City block. I can tell
right,
you
right.
that.
Ski
Right,
Village
right.
City Block. Yeah,
Should we back up a little bit?
Yes.
Let's sort of, before we start getting into any details about that night, why don't you sort of set up what we know happened, from, sort of from the beginning of that evening starting, if we could.
Yes. So the boys got there the Friday night and they enjoyed the evening. They woke up the Saturday and they skied and snowboarded all the Saturday.
And that's, we're talking, this is just so everybody understands, this is Friday, January 31st, 2025 into February 1st, 2026, right? So
Yes,
Friday is the January 31st.
correct.
Okay.
And then they skied through the day and snowboarded. And the boys went out for dinner. First, they went to one place and they just had some appetizers. And it was I believe it was Lucille's. Then they went out for pizza dinner in the middle of the village. And then that's where there was Colin, Liam, and Kyle. Colin decided he was really tired. He was baked for the day and he needed to go to sleep. So he went back to the hotel room. They shared one hotel room. And that was in the Tour de Voyageur, and it was Tower 2. They have two large buildings that are connected. And you can see that in the Fifth Estate show. You can see the walking and the different locations of the bars and the towers, how close they are, what we just spoke about. Then Kyle and Liam carried on, and then they went to Le Centro, which is a bistro type bar. After 10, it turns into a dance club bar. And they went there just in case the popular Caribou had too many people in it, because there's usually a line up there. So they wanted to get a stamp there just in case, because they still wanted to stay out. These bars are open till 3 a.m. in the morning in Quebec, different than Ontario type bars. I'm not sure what time they're open till in LA.
Not that late.
No, not, I mean,
Okay.
New York, it's 4 a.m., but I hear LA, it's 2. But and just so to sort of set the picture for everybody, this is it's a resort, so it's, a lot of young people, right? A lot of partying. I mean, people are going to this place to ski and then go out at night and drink and have a good time, basically, right?
Right. Après ski is what happens after ski. It's you go, you have some drinks, and you enjoy yourself, and then sleep, and then do it all over again.
Right. That's literally that's what it translates, right? After ski. So
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which to
that's
be,
my junior high school French kicking in there. Yeah.
There you go. Good
Yeah.
job.
beautiful, Miles. Well done. Well, Miles was also just in Europe, so maybe he picked some skills up.
I went to Paris Disney, so where
Wow.
everyone speaks English. So
Really?
Well,
yeah.
so the interesting thing about this night is that everything is like super normal, right? Like there's nothing dangerous going on here. Like Miles said, people do this every weekend, and probably the locals every weekday. They go, they ski, they go to these places. A lot of people probably know each other. They have fun, they dance, they go home and do it all over again. And so there was nothing that was happening that night with Liam that was particularly unusual or weird or out of character.
Correct. Liam was texting us. He keeps in contact with us. I know he was texting his dad, and they have a family chat at the dinner time. He was texting me at about 11 p.m. We were texting about how cold it was out, because it was really cold up here in the Kawarthas, and it was just as cold in Tremblant. And I was reminding him he just got some new ski gear, and I said, hey, you can get some more accessories at the shops. They have great shops in the Tremblant ski village. So I said, check them out. You might get something really cool. And so he was staying in contact and kept texting while he was out with his buddies. I know that he was texting his friends in a group chat that evening. We have that from his friends letting us know. And then after the La Centro, they went to the Caribou, and they got into the Caribou about 12 midnight, Kyle and Liam. And so they had the evening from 12 till 3 a.m. at the Caribou.
And during that time, were they together the whole time in that club, or did they separate?
So they were together, but then they separated closer to the end of the evening, closer to 3, more like between 2 and 3, they were separated. Liam is very social and chitty chatty, and he talks to a lot of people. Kyle's a little bit more quiet and stayed in the background. So Liam was all over the place talking. We have video of him dancing, and of him, like, you know, filming it, like filming the other people dancing, because there you dance on the bar and you talk to people. We have surveillance clip of him talking to a gentleman who's a general manager of two of the establishments there. He's has no problem talking to anybody.
Yeah, just an outgoing guy. And on the video that you got to see, I mean, was there anything of concern? Like, was there anybody that he talked to or interacted with that looked unusual or might have been something to raise a red flag?
There's nothing that we've seen. We were only allowed to see portions of the video from the SQ. We were not allowed to see the full video. We would love to sit and see the full video so we could see if there was any uh, behavior from anybody he was talking to, or Liam's behavior of how he was receiving being talked to.
Mm.
But we weren't able to see that. We were only able to see some things. It's still with the police. We were fortunate that the establishment shared their surveillance with the police, and they have viewed that. What we did learn, though, through this complete investigation is how much surveillance was not available.
Mm.
There's a lot of blind spots. There's a lot of spots in the resort that we feel really needs upgrades, and we're working on that as a separate project.
Interesting. Interesting. And as far as I'm assuming that as part of the investigation, they questioned the people that were at the establishment that night. They probably talked to some of the people who worked there, etc. Like, did anybody notice anything? Like, was Liam drinking a lot? Was there any concern by anybody, about that? Like, was there anything that sort of stood out that came out during the police investigation?
So the people that they talk to, we don't have all the names as the family. The police have talked to lots of the patrons that were there, and one of the gentlemen that you saw on the Fifth Estate, the manager. They all say Liam was in good form, and yes, he did have some drinks. Of course, we have his debit bill of what he bought drinks, and the whole goal was the après ski to drink and party. But he was in good form. And you can also see by the surveillance, he was walking. He was walking fine. He was multitasking. He was texting. He was phoning at the same time. So you can see, the public can see what shape he was in.
Yeah, this
Uh,
doesn't look like a young man who's about to wander off completely disoriented into the woods,
no,
just to be blunt. I mean, we'll show that footage and people can
yeah,
make that decision for themselves, but I agree with
exactly.
what you're saying. He looks like he knows where he's going and
Yeah.
he's walking and talking at the same time. So,
Right.
We had some original information that he was completely, intoxicated. And we saw that, which somebody interpreted of him being completely intoxicated, but he wasn't. He was the vaping, like instead of cigarette smoking, he was vaping. That was something he was quitting. But of course, when you're out for drinks, you're gonna vape. So he was sneaking a vape inside the establishment, the
mm,
caribou. So his head was down, sneaking a vape, and then he was like looking around. So by his head going down, they thought that maybe was intoxication, but we
Oh,
knew as a
interesting.
family, all of
uh,
us knew what he was doing.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. So they thought that he was kind of like nodding
Nodding,
because he was
yes,
drunk. So you said Liam and Kyle kind of got separated for like the last hour, like between 2 and 3 o'clock, and
right.
Liam was just kind of doing his thing and talking to everybody. So what happens next?
So Kyle left and went back to the hotel room. And there was some text in their group chat and with Kyle. So we're not sure because we don't have Liam's phone to know if Liam saw that text or not, that he knew if Kyle went back.
mm,
We kind of believe that he did, but we can't say factually that he knows that Kyle went back.
right.
When Liam left the bar, and he was escorted out of the bar quite aggressively for some reason. He was goofing around, pretending to touch some glasses. They were exiting the bar. He was escorted, to me, too aggressively, and I've spoken to the bar about this and the bar management. The very, Liam, we don't believe anything negative happened. The police say nothing negative happened in the bar. Why was he escorted out this way? Because it was closing time. So that raises a question for the family, and it also raises a question: why is this establishment being aggressive? Liam's 130 pounds wet. I mean, they pretty much lifted him out. It was a very strange thing to see.
And
Uh,
what was the sort of the circumstances around that? Like, was something going on, or were they doing that to everybody who was still in the bar? Just like, hey, it's over. Let's get these kids out of here. Or what?
we couldn't see the rest of the crowd what happened, but we did see that Liam was pretending to maybe touch a glass on the bar, but he didn't. And then he went, "Oh no, I'm just joking, right?" And then a waitress goes like this, and then from behind somebody just grabs Liam by the coat and lifts him up, takes him out. Doesn't go, "Excuse me, sir, can you leave?" So it was for me and for other family members, it was extremely aggressive.
Especially because, like you said, it sounds like everything was pretty copacetic in there up to that point. It wasn't like he was a
Yeah,
problem customer on camera, slamming into people,
no,
doing anything
not at all.
weird.
Not
Well,
at
that is
all.
an odd. I mean, it's hard not to notice that, right? On a night where something like this happens, because that is really unusual. But I'm not sure what to make of it hearing it now, um, until we know more. I mean, I'm assuming everyone's spoken to, the management of the bar and whoever the person was who put their hands on him, and there must have been, interviewed at
Right.
least, right?
Right. We're told that they interviewed. We're told that they also spoke outside and they did a fist bump that everything's fine, it's
Got
cool.
it. Got it.
So,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, like just
mm,
doing my job, dude. It's closing time. You got to go, kind of thing. And
exactly.
Liam understood that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so his friends are gone. He's been moved out of the bar.
hmm
What, as far as you guys know, like what happens next in this sort of odyssey that he took that night?
He spoke to some girls outside. He spoke to some other people. Exactly who, I don't know. The police have interviewed some of those people. Then he was walking out where you see on the surveillance where he's walking in front of La Central and he's calling. And first he texted his dad by mistake. He thought he was texting Kyle, we believe, and it was like, "Yo, meet me outside."
Right.
But then I think he might have realized, oh, went to the wrong one,
Right.
wrong person, because there was a last text from his dad, and you know how he shows up on your screen. It could have just been a miss. So then he phones Kyle. So to me, that reads that he's wanting to go somewhere and wants Kyle to come with him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that factually, but that feels that way. So then he
And
continues walking towards his hotel, and then he bumps into a couple of guys, Gilliam and Hugo, which you see are a couple of guys that are workers within the resort. They speak mostly French. Um, and he's asking them something. Unfortunately, they don't remember exactly what Liam was asking. It was just a very quick interaction, and Liam's pointing somewhere.
it almost looked like he was asking directions, like, can I get in the building from this side or something like that? Because I watched that a couple times and I was like, what is he
Mhm,
pointing at? And I'm trying to think if I'm in that position and there's two guys there
mhm.
and I'm kind of like heading to my hotel, that's the only thing that really makes sense. But then again, it's also so small that it seems like he already had sort of arrived at his destination, right? So
Yeah.
it's a strange moment. And again, it is also interesting that those two men don't really remember what was said because it was so insignificant, or so they're telling us that it must
Mhm.
have been as small as, "Hey, is there a door over there I can get in?" or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, what do you make of that, Kathleen? It's such a important moment.
It's a very important moment for us, the family. His door was right there, steps away, and that door is open. The vestibule is open. It's once you're inside the vestibule, it's a warm vestibule, is where you use your key pass. And so for Liam to say, "Hey, there's my door," that would be kind of odd, I would
Right.
think.
To point out
And
to
so
some
is he,
strangers, right? Yeah, like what?
yeah, "Hey,
Why?
there's my door to go in." Like what was he asking them? Was he asking them for directions somewhere else? It just seems odd. And to watch how he was walking with purpose and walking, you know, well, I don't think he was asking about that door, the door to the Tour de Voyageur. To me, it felt like he must have been asking about something else.
Yeah.
And for them not to remember, I'm told that if it's totally insignificant to them, maybe they might not remember. I really do wish they did remember, of course.
Yeah.
People's
But
memory works in different ways. This is why we're going back at this time with our open letter, asking anybody to please look back into their pictures, their Instagrams, their memories, and keep, you know, having the conversation of Liam. We have the wristbands, to keep that conversation going, because memory works in a funny way. It'll come back to you
Abs-
at long time
Absolutely.
after.
Yes, yes. And people remember things differently, and it's a crazy phenomenon that you see, especially when
Exactly.
you know that something's perhaps happened, and then there's kind of like pressure, and people start thinking different things.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the last time that Liam is seen on any footage or by any other witnesses or anything, right? He's actually outside the place where he's staying. He's talking to these two gentlemen. He walks off camera, and that's it.
Yeah.
oh,
There was a shadow that was closer to the P1 parking lot along the uh, roadway, but that's not confirmed that that was Liam. It was a shadow. The police suspect maybe it was Liam because of the timing
Hmm.
of how the matches up, but we're not sure. So we can't confirm.
And you say a shadow, like literally a shadow that was seen passing by a camera.
Yeah, yeah, a shadow in the back that like a shadow that they've seen from one of the camera angles.
Oh my
They
God,
had to piece so many
that's a
angles
that's a
together.
frustrating piece of video evidence. If I mean,
yeah.
I've
Very
seen a lot.
frustrating.
I've seen a lot of frustrating pieces of evidence, but a shadow that might
Hmm.
take the cake.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right up there.
What time
Well,
was that? Sorry, Sean. What time was the shadow seen?
I'd have to look back in my files for the exact timing of how but the police said it just worked from the timing from where Liam stood, from when he
Mm,
pointed to where he could have walked to that
hmm
time.
hmm
So, that only ties into for us when March 22nd, his wallet was found in the snow right side out of the P1 enter exit parking lot, which was
Right.
right near where that shadow was.
Right.
So that
so I
didn't
was
make
gonna
sense
ask.
to us until that time.
So when do you guys, as a sort of group, or his friends, I would assume, are be the first ones that would get worried because he wasn't there the next morning, right? Like, when does the sort of alarms start going off, and what's the sequence of events there with everybody?
Yeah, so the boys, I don't know the exact timing when the boys became concerned, but in the morning they spoke about it. They were texting their friend group through the day. They were looking. They thought maybe Liam, maybe met a girl, something, like that, at the bar, and he didn't make it back. It wasn't till later in the day that they got really concerned and contacted his stepbrother, Ryan. And then Ryan contacted Chris, his dad. And then his dad called me. And as soon as his dad phoned me and not texted me, I knew something was right away wrong. And then we initiated everything, call the police, get the security, and Chris, Lara, and I got in a car and drove up to Tremblant immediately.
Got it.
So before we jump into that, because I know
Yeah.
that's going to be a whole thing, I did
Hmm.
want to point out it's important to know that his friends said they called him multiple times that day, like
Correct.
over and over, trying to get in touch with him, and that later on, it was determined that Liam's phone was active for some of that day at least, right? So presumably those calls were going through to that phone. Where Liam was, we don't know, but the
Hmm.
phone was on, right?
Right.
The phone was active till 6:24 p.m. the next day, from what we've learned.
The
So,
next and the next day being, so just let's go through the timeline again. So
right,
it's kind of like January 31st through February 2nd, right?
right.
So
So
It's sort of the night of January 1st, 31st into the morning of February 1st, and then his phone's still active the following day on,
February
on
2nd,
February
right,
2nd. Okay.
to 6:24 p.m. So
Wow.
the last, it was I think it was 3:17, and I have to confirm that was the last.
Yeah, that's what we have. That
Yeah,
317, there's no more phone activity from Liam's
no,
side, but his
but the
phone
last
still is
ping
active.
was the next day till 6:24. So let's think about this. His it's minus 30. His phone does not have full a charge.
Hmm.
And how we know that is from his buddies from dinner time, that his phone doesn't have full charge. And we also know Liam never has his phone at full charge. Uh,
Yeah. He's out all night at a bar. I mean, whose phone at the end of that is at 100%? Almost nobody.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So then you're out in the cold. We also know it's an iPhone, that the cold deteriorates the battery really quickly. When we go skiing, we put hot pockets on our phone to try and keep it warmer. And we and I'm not sure that he would have one on, like, because he wasn't skiing, he was just out hanging out. And so for it to keep warm till the next day, 6:24 for the last ping, it's hard to believe that it would be in a cold place that whole time. You would think
Yeah.
it was somewhere warm.
Possibly
So
even plugged in again. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
so
that's a
just
long
sort of
time.
breaking down what you're saying, Kathleen, is that
Hmm.
he's being contacted by so many people all through Saturday, but he's not responding. But then his phone pings at 6:24 Sunday.
Right.
Right. So there's this, like, I don't know, maybe over 24-hour gap that his phone is still presumably working and charged so
Right.
that it can give that ping at 6:24 on Sunday, but he's not responding to anybody.
Right. And he would always respond at, I could see, say maybe he was with somebody, he wouldn't respond for a little bit, but he would definitely respond like the next morning.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and Sean and I obviously have talked about this case, leading up to interviewing you guys, and that is one of the most compelling things about this is that as far as, like, maybe there is something else going on here, because
Mhm.
who had the phone, right? And if it was Liam, then why wasn't he responding to you guys? And if not, then if he didn't have it, then how did the other person who had his phone until that time, how did they get it? Right. But so, when do you guys go into, we got to do something about this motion, take us from the next day, him not responding. You said that, his stepbrother waited like 10, 13 hours, and then he was like, this is crazy. So he called the dad, right? And then your ex, Liam's father, called you, and
Okay.
you said
So,
that he usually
okay.
didn't call you, right? You guys usually
Yeah.
texted, so you knew
So
something.
what happened first was the boys waited, Kyle and Colin. And we'd have to ask them exactly why they waited. They probably thought Liam was gonna show up. And they contacted Liam's stepbrother Ryan, because they had his number. And they nobody in their ever mind would ever think Liam was missing, like really missing. And so they contacted Ryan, and Ryan right away got a hold of Chris and Lara. And then Chris called me, and normally he texts, but he called. And as soon as I picked up the phone, something's wrong. And he's like, yes, Liam's missing. And so we just put everything right into quick gear, um, and got on a group text with the boys, and had them go to security and you know report a missing person. We got the police contacted to get that going. and we went, all three of us, in a car together. It was a crazy storm, and drove to Tremblant to get things moving, because this is not in Liam's nature at one bit to not get a hold of somebody and move forward to see what we could do and get this done, and start things moving. It just wasn't right for Liam to be out of contact with anybody for this length of time.
What was going through your head on that trip?
Um, it was terror, complete surreal that is this really happening? Um, I can't even describe the words of it's it's the worst. Your whole body goes into shock and numb. You're just numb. Um, for Chris and I, we were completely in shock, and luckily, Laura was able to help us through and fill out the forms and all that type of work. Um, um, where were going through with the police station and stuff, with the questions and that. It was just you can't believe that this is actually happening. I still can't, this time later, I still can't believe that I'm talking to you about this, that this is real. It's still surreal. With all the searches and information, people we've met and supporters, it just doesn't feel actual.
What was your experience when you got to the police? And as you said, you started, I'm assuming you had to report him as a missing person, and you're filling out all that paperwork. And what was their attitude towards it? And what was your experience there?
They were, it was their job. They gave us the forms, they filled it out, and then it was the next day when the center was put together in Tremblant. They had a command center put together, and it was completely surreal. There was over 100 officers and volunteers that they brought in, and they were searching the area. And we had helicopters, snowmobiles, divers, horses. It was just completely, you couldn't believe. You're in shock. You're just numb. You can't believe this is actually happening, and you think you're going to get an answer. Like every moment, you're going to get an answer, and the next moment is what you think is going to happen, and you're
Can
going to
I
find
ask?
him.
Yeah, and it's got to be even more surreal every moment that goes by and the phone doesn't ring or the, officers aren't showing up. When you were first dealing with the investigators, who were in charge of this, did you get any sense from them, as far as were they looking at this more as a person in need of rescue who may have wandered off intoxicated versus were they already looking at possible foul play, or did you really not get anything from them? I mean, I'm curious.
They were looking more for a missing person that wandered off.
Mm.
Right, right.
Is what I felt, and we didn't believe that. um we've always felt there's more to this.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine in a resort area, a lot of drinking, that happens, right? We've seen
Yep.
that in other cases. It's kind of like the first instinct is, people get disoriented, they end up in the woods. And, obviously we're talking about like 25 below Celsius, right?
Yep. Yep.
Obviously bad things can happen to people in that kind of weather. So it's not unexpected, right? That's what they're first
No,
looking
it
at.
happens. And we
Yeah.
learned a lot about hypothermia and what it does, and how far you can go, and what your body is capable of, and how quickly you can get into delusional state, and the capabilities and stuff. But nothing was adding up. So we were wanting a lot more answers on other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When did you guys sort of like get in the loop about the cell phone ping? And that stuff. Is that information that you learned later?
Some of it was, yes. Yeah. We hired a investigative team to work with the SQ, particularly on the IT details, to help us gain some more information.
Now, Kathleen, sorry, can you explain what those abbreviations mean for the audience? You hired an investigator to work with the SQ
Oh,
to.
sorry. We hired an investigator to work with the Surete de Quebec, who is the police, the provincial police for Quebec, and to work particularly on the cell phone data, to help give us some better information to help manage some details. We didn't
Got
get
it.
much from that first investigation working with the SQ. So we're still working on trying to get further details working with the sup- data suppliers
Got it.
and information. Yeah.
But just so you guys like put your own resources into it, brought in private people who were experts on this, and
Yeah.
and good for you, that you did that, because I think it's so important that people know that like the police can only go so far and they only have so much resources and so much expertise. And sometimes if you really, really, really want to dig into stuff, you do have to kind of pony up and, get involved, right? And
Yeah.
it's something that we see over and over again with these cases, with missing persons cases, where families have to navigate these systems, and it's different. Obviously, we deal with a lot of cases in the United States. I'm sure it's different up there, but either way, there's this sort of like this dance that you have to do, right, where you're interacting with these people who are professionals and this is what they do for a living. You have to be respectful, but you also have to make sure that you're advocating for the missing person and that you're doing everything that you know that you can do and that's within your rights to make sure that no stone is left unturned, really, right?
Exactly, exactly. Just like we couldn't participate in the original searches, but right away we were out and, we had friends come up and we made flyers and we were out at the different hotels and talking to the security at the different hotels that were in the village, handing out Liam's picture and saying, can you talk to your staff? Can you put this up in your doors? Like, just get it out, doing anything possible. We had friends that were going out looking into different areas where, we thought maybe he could have gone or have been, particularly where there's um, community members have parties or something. So you have to really put resources yourself in and try and push for information. We've had a
100%.
few searches that we've already done, and we're working on more.
Yeah. So the official search lasts for 12 days, right? And are you guys allowed to be involved in that at all? Does your search, so your search starts after the 12 days. So they do a
Yes.
pretty thorough thing with helicopters and ATVs and all kinds of stuff, right? And I assume they decide we're going to wait until the weather changes. Maybe the snow melts. We'll be able to come back. Because we saw that with another case that was very similar, where they were just like, well, we're not going to find anything else. We have to wait until, we can come back after the weather changes. But you guys decide we're going to keep going after the 12 days, right?
So after the 12 days, we stopped with them. We did more awareness because it was winter and there wasn't more we could do right at that time. They did a very extensive search
Okay.
at that time. We kept on with the awareness and getting the information out to the public to help share and get their own home cams and information to send in to the police. And then the search for the Surete SQ, March 22nd, after the wallet showed up, they did another search that was an extensive search. And
Got
then
it.
they did the swamp in that area. And then in April, when the snow melted, we did a family search, family and friends, and we organized a ground search extended from what the police searched, like extended out onto that. And we've kept that tracked.
Right. Now let's go back because you just mentioned something really
Right.
important that we haven't hit on, which is
Okay,
Liam's wallet was discovered. Now,
correct.
how long from when he went missing to when that wallet is found? How much time has passed?
So that was like a month and 22 days, so a month and a half.
The wallet is found how close to where he was last seen on that surveillance camera?
So it's very close. It's just at the main parking lot, P1 parking lot, just right near his hotel at the entrance of the P1 parking lot.
And I think what's interesting is not only the amount of time and the location, right? That is already strange. But then what's going on with his wallet? His hotel key card is there, right? But the
Correct.
money is gone. And his ID is
Correct.
still in it too, right?
His
That's
ID, his cards, his hotel key is all intact, but he had some cash and that's gone.
what do you make of this discovery of the wallet when you think about it?
You know what it does for me in my mind, it confirms that there's foul play. What it confirms is Liam keeps that wallet in a secure zipped pocket or somewhere more secure on himself. He doesn't have it in a loose back pocket like the guys did back in the 80s. Uh,
Or some
definitely.
guys still do today.
Guys who were alive in the 80s still carry that
Right,
wallet.
right.
So it just nothing wrong with keeping it just in your back pocket. I'm just saying I know that Liam doesn't do that.
That's really interesting to this whole story, because it does sort of eliminate the did it fall out angle, right? Or something, which we've talked about stories with wallet discoveries before, and that's what always comes up. Did it fall out? The fact that it's
Mhm,
usually zipped away to me seems hugely significant, and I understand why that leads you to
mhm.
where you're going here.
Well, and why would it fall out right there after he had already made his way back and he had taken that, that whole walk and everything? And
Mhm.
unless, it was there's some sort of confrontation and he's asked to remove it from his pocket and, or something like that.
Or
But,
was it placed there later? Because I mean, what sticks out to me too is how long it took for that wallet to turn up. It does make me
Right,
wonder, did somebody who had it come back and put it there?
right,
right,
For what reason, I don't know. But it's interesting that there would be such extensive searching in that area for so long. And then, like you said, it's right there. I mean, it's not,
right,
you
right.
would think someone would have found it.
It could be snowplow to that area too. We looked at the snowplow routes. It could have been in a deeper snow bank. They did dismantle snow banks at the time for the main big search for Liam. But that's just one of the hypotheses that maybe it was snowplowed into that area
mm,
at some point. But it's just an interesting location to find it at that point, March 22nd, that much later.
right,
So I'm really, really trying hard to stick to only facts. Um, because I have a million and 2 million hypotheses in my mind, but to keep going, I have to really stick to the facts. The fact is, Liam has a wallet in a zipped pocket, and why is it out on the road a
right,
month and a half
right.
later after the extensive search? Exactly what you said.
Well, I think we'll get to a portion of this where we do want to hear your hypothesis. But like right now, yeah, let's just stay on track. I
Mhm.
think you're right. So,
Yeah.
what happens after the wall is discovered a month and a half after Liam goes missing? Is there a new search? Do they
Yes.
change the direction of the search? Talk to us about that.
So that becomes the ground zero point from where they do the search again, the Surrette to Quebec, and they search in the area, and then they also bring in a special machine. There's a swamp near there collecting water, and it was melted, and they did a complete swamp search. Sorry, didn't say that right. We also had a friend of mine that is a filmmaker and did a drone over that swamp because it was very shallow and clear. You could see clear to the bottom. So we did some work there.
Anything turn up at all of interest?
No, nothing has turned up in clue wise. Just as a side note, hypothermia, you typically you get hot and you take off clothing.
Hmm.
You'll know that in your different investigations, and not one article has been found of Liam's what he was wearing that evening.
Right. Which is another huge red flag in a lot of ways towards foul play, I think.
Yeah.
Because again, I mean, it's all these little pieces adding up, right? And to go with the possible theory that maybe he was too inebriated, stayed out in the cold too long, became a little disoriented. We just don't have anything that points to that except the missing part, right? When we see him on camera, he looks very much together and he knows where he's going. He talks to people, right? And those people
Yep.
didn't remember saying, "Oh, this really weird guy came up and he seemed like he was loopy." It was so
Hmm.
normal that they didn't even really remember what he talked about. And then, like
Right.
you said, there's no other clothing found. So it all points kind of in one direction. But then what's missing from that is who and why. Because this is
Yeah.
such a normal, good, clean cut kid
Yeah.
right there by his hotel where his friends are. So it's just yeah, and maybe this is time to talk about some of these million
Well,
hypotheses
yeah,
that
I
we
mean, I
have.
think, let's start with some questions, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what are the questions that you feel haven't been answered? And then, then we can kind of go to what you think some of the answers might be, right? And I think, I mean, we have some questions, certainly. Why didn't he enter the hotel, right? Um, you know, what, where may he have gone if he didn't go into the hotel? You know, was there someone else that he was going to meet that we somehow don't know about, right? Obviously the phone, it remaining active, and that period of time in between, I think, like I said earlier, to me, that's the most compelling thing. That, was he doing something and not wanting to contact anybody, or was he in distress and not able to contact, but still, was around his phone, or had his phone just been taken from him, right? And then the wallet, right? Like, what does that mean? So, I just sort of wanted to sort of lay those out, and I think, Kathleen, I'd love to hear your thoughts about, the questions that you've always had around this. And then, like Sean
Mm-hmm.
said, what are some of your, as you said, hypotheses? Not an easy word to say the right way. But
Mm-hmm.
what are some of your theories about what may have happened to your son?
Yeah. So I, at this point, I don't know, and I don't have one hypothesis that I go with. What I do know is he was walking with purpose. He was in good form. He spoke to people. There was even a person that asked him if he was okay. We heard later through the process of meeting so many people, and Liam said he was fine. Um, he, to me, looked like he was going somewhere, potentially an after party, or going somewhere was organized somehow. And where that is, I have no idea. He wanted his friend to go with him, and he would have contacted us. He sent me pictures of who he's gone out with after. Like, we have a close relationship. So none of this adds up to him just disappearing into the cold and as a missing and got hypothermia. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, that is a possibility, and you can't take that off the list. You can't take up a million things off the list. I really don't, with all the facts that I have, and know Liam with the history, and I'm open to all these things, and all these things I've looked into that we've been asked to make sure, and talk to people. This does not add up. There's a mystery here, and we're going to solve this.
What you said, I can see a version of making sense because you earlier told us that he was very outgoing, not afraid to talk to strangers. He's actually on camera doing it inside the club. And then you mentioned people saw him outside talking to people. Then you kind of plug that into he looks like he's looking for directions or confirming the direction of something at that point. Maybe he
Mhm.
was invited somewhere, was trying to find his way there, asked those people, hey, is that in this direction? Yes or no? And
Mhm.
then something happens either before he gets there or he gets to somewhere and it's not what he was expecting.
Right.
and something goes down. It does make sense. It makes more sense, I think, than the other scenario we were talking about.
Hmm.
But then the question is like how have they not been able to track down who he spoke to and where that might have been if so much of this is on camera? And that we might not know because they keep a lot close to their vest. I mean, for all we know, they are interviewing people. But
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that? Is that more or less what you're kind of leaning towards at this point?
Maybe they have information already. Maybe it was an accident that happened
Mhm.
between those two places, and you know, we don't know that. But what we do know also is that there needs to be better surveillance in these places. They feel safe. They're not as safe as we think, and we don't want to see this happen to any other family.
Right.
They do have lots of video surveillance that I have seen of all the interactions of who Liam was talking to, and I think maybe that there is some more resources can be put to that, and see how that behavioral and the conversations went, because maybe there's something there. That's why we're asking people to look back at their photographs from that weekend or Instagram pictures or any conversations, because there might be a glimpse of something in those pictures that they might see a conversation or somebody in the background who's talking, who might give a little bit of information of who the boys were talking to or something. You never know.
You
Right.
never know. That's a
Right.
great
Um,
point.
Yep.
from what we had with Olivier, he was talking to the girls, and Olivier said, "Oh, don't bother with these girls. They're all married and have girlfriends." Do you know what I mean? It could be a little conversation like that. He spoke to the wrong girl that evening because he was, talking to girls. I know he would be. So you just never know.
So where do things stand now?
So right now we have a $50,000 reward offered for information, and we're also working now. We meet every month with the Tremblant Association, and they have posters and banners up in the resort. They're also working on putting information out on their social media. They have one coming up in April to talk about our spring search that's coming up. We're working with Sarcan Canine. They have dogs. They worked with us in November for a search. We have a family search coming up. I've also reached out to the AQBRS, which is a Quebec team that works with the Surette de Quebec. Sorry, I have trouble saying that sometimes. And we continue on with our awareness through Facebook and Instagram and our website. And hopefully somebody will remember something, a spark of something that can help put this puzzle together.
Right on. If our viewers have information or tips or anything like that, where would you like them to go first? Would you want to drive them to your website, to the police, both? What works for you?
Okay, so if you can share with the police, there's also anonymous lines because lots of people may not feel comfortable talking to the police. So there's anonymous lines that you can connect. And then we also have contact lines on our liamtoman.com website that you can contact with information, and we can connect you with the right people.
Fantastic. Well, Kathleen, one thing I did want to say to you and to Chris as well, and I'll tell him separately, but you guys are doing something that's really impressive, which is be really proactive from day one. And in the way that you guys jumped in there and have advocated for Liam and been involved is really commendable because it doesn't always go that way. This is such an unusual situation that your family's been put in that I think a lot of people are completely blindsided, as I'm sure you were. And they kind of place it all in other people's hands to figure out because we all think that, oh well, the authorities have got this, it'll be over in a day, it'll be over in 2 days. And I think that you might have had that inkling of a feeling, but I can tell just from talking to you guys that you went pedal to the metal and you're still doing it for Liam. So I just wanted to say good job. I think that it always goes better when people don't leave it all to the police, that they do their own stuff as well. And so, yeah, good job on that. I really hope that you guys get some answers.
Thank you. Yeah, we realized fairly quickly that you have to you have to do more The police did a great job and are still doing a great job, but there's so much more that we wanted to find answers with, and we're all three working as a team. And so many people are helping us and supporting us, the community, our friends, our families, to help get some answers, and find Liam.
Yeah.
Kathleen, what's the best possible outcome here for you guys?
That Liam's comes back. Liam's here, safe and sound.
Kathleen, do you think that somebody out there knows something?
Yes, I do. I truly believe somebody out there knows something. They may not even realize that they know something. There's a memory, a spark of a memory that they're going to realize that's going to help put this puzzle together. This is going to be solved. It's going to come back in that memory of knowing something, and
And
it's going to
and
help solve this case.
I'm assuming when you say that, you're saying that somebody might have witnessed something happening the night or the morning, since these events went into the morning, that they might have seen Liam interacting with someone or something that happened back at the club that they haven't connected to the fact that like that may have led to something happening to Liam later, right?
Correct, correct. Every time we go back for awareness to the Tremblant Resort, new people come and they say they've been here that weekend, and they have not heard about this case. So we continue, and we're going to continue and keep Liam in the conversation, and keep talking. You're going to get, or we're going to get to the right person, and somebody in the community that's helping us spread this information and Liam's story is going to get to that right person soon.
Well, we're honored that we can be a part of that we can be a part of, giving you a platform to tell Liam's story and to keep his name alive and to spread it to as many people as we can reach. So thank you for being so open with us and for sitting here with us and telling us this story.
I'm so grateful to you. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
us to you as well. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much. So we'll stay in touch, obviously. And like I always like to say, I really hope we can talk again on camera when this whole thing gets solved, hopefully sooner than later, and we can learn about how it all happened and how Liam came home to you.
Yeah, and if there's any
Yes.
updates or if you get a hold of something that you think is important and you want to come on here and talk to us, we've done that with other cases. We can do a short little interview and put it up as an update. Whatever you want to do, we're here for you.
Okay, thanks. Thank
Awesome.
you so much, guys. I so
Absolutely,
appreciate it.
Kathleen.
Of course. Well, we'll stay in touch as we move through the process. Okay. So this
Okay.
is not our last conversation.
It was great
Okay.
to see you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Well, it's
It's the phone and the wallet, man.
yeah,
Phone
it
and the
is.
wallet. It's interesting because we've done so many missing persons cases, and sometimes it's like this compelling piece of video evidence, and like I feel like they talked to those guys that he talked to, and it does sound like the police are doing their job here, and I don't think that's the smoking gun. It's the fact that his phone was still active for that amount of time, but he wasn't using it. Um,
Yeah.
and that
It,
the wallet was discovered and that, the money's missing, but the key card's still in there. And it's not too far from where he talked to those two guys.
yeah.
Um,
Let's just be blunt about it. I mean, by now everyone will have seen the maps we've put up. We know exactly how far this last bar was from his hotel. Not only that, but we've got him on camera in front of the hotel. He had every opportunity to make it home safe. Something happened, and probably from another person, intentionally or unintentionally, that stopped him. And
right.
so it just means that these investigators really have their work cut out, finding every single person who was in town that night and interviewing the hell out of them, cross-checking whatever they learn against everybody else. I mean, it's a lot of work, but that's where the answer is going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
because I think Kathleen's right. Somebody knows something. And not only what she was saying, somebody might have accidentally seen something, but I think somebody knows exactly what happened because they did it or were part of covering it up or they know exactly where Liam is.
Right.
Because I don't think that he found his way into thin air all by himself. I really don't. After
No.
hearing that and going through everything we've gone through, Somebody knows more than just a little bit. Somebody knows a lot.
It feels like it. It feels like it. And Kathleen kind of mentioned lightly that maybe it was an accident. Like again, this was
On the table.
brought up with Ryan's case where maybe he was hit by a car. It's late at night. It's the morning, really. It's pitch black. It's cold out. People are drinking nearby.
Yeah.
But it's hard because he's there, right? Like you said, he's at the hotel. I mean, it's like he
Yeah.
made it to his destination. So the idea that she has that maybe he was actually telling those guys like, "Yo, I'm outside," that meant come down because we're going
Mm,
to this other spot, as opposed to
yeah.
because he's got his key card. We know it's in the wallet, right? So why is he, texting them and saying, "Yo, I'm outside"? He doesn't
Yeah.
need them to come down and open the door. It's a hotel. He has the
Yeah,
key
he could have
card,
gone
right?
in.
He could have gone in. So what she's saying does make sense that perhaps there was some predetermined, maybe, there was a phone call on the way over there. I don't know. And maybe that's something that we should ask Chris when we interview him, because I do feel like the diagnostics of the phone are really important here. And
Mm,
was there some communication between leaving the bar and getting to that hotel where he could have set something up and they were supposed to come and meet him and then they were going to go party somewhere else, like Kathleen's
yeah.
alluding to. Um, that could be the case. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, Miles, that you bring up Ryan Stuka. I think viewers of this channel are obviously familiar with the Ryan Stuka case, and there's a lot of similarities. It's hard to get through talking about one without the other because these are two young men, ski towns on opposite side of Canada, but both in Canada, missing after being out with friends and just having fun and going to basically bars all night. The biggest difference that I see, though, and you kind of brought it up, is that Ryan Stuga at the end of the night was sort of out of the main town, more down where he lived. And I wouldn't call it rural, but much quieter residential area of that resort town. And when he left, he was kind of could have been walking on his own in a very quiet, empty road, surrounded by wilderness, right? Whereas
Lot more opportunity to get disoriented and
yeah, or be struck by a vehicle, right? Who didn't see him. Whereas then you look at this scenario, it's a little more in the middle of town, where all this was taking place. We're talking about hotels and bars within one block. So it's like the idea that he wandered off seems less likely. The idea even that someone struck him and no one saw that with a vehicle and somehow, disappeared the situation to me also seems less likely just because of where it is. It's the middle of town.
agreed.
And there's still bars getting out. There's people walking around. He runs into people on that street. So to me, it almost adds this whole other element that makes me think even more firmly foul play is probably involved than I
Yeah.
felt in Ryan's case, which I really still don't know how to feel about. That one was very mysterious to me.
Yeah.
As both of them are obviously, but yeah,
Well, and also the evidence, right? I mean, the phone evidence and the wallet being found.
yeah,
I
those
think
are huge.
also stand out because they never found a trace of Ryan, which means that whatever Ryan had was with him, right? And
Yeah.
I really it doesn't sound, to me, you never know, but it doesn't sound like Liam like just dropped his wallet. Like, it just like fell out of his pocket. He wasn't climbing a steep ridge in a rainstorm, like somebody else. That could be argued like, maybe things fell out of his pocket.
Well, and the zipped compartment for the wallet that
Yeah.
Kathleen told us about is huge.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until she laid it on us. That's a big one. And the fact that it wasn't found for so long, even with all this extensive searching. I mean, I know the snowplow theory is interesting, but I still feel like that's really weird, man.
Do
I
you
gotta
feel
be.
like someone might have come in after the fact and dropped it?
I'm kind of leaning in that direction just because of the amount of effort put into the searches in that area. It's hard for me to imagine. And a wallet is one of those things that a human being automatically, like our eyes are drawn to it because we know it's an item of value, right? So like if you're walking down the street and you see somebody's wallet, you're probably not going to miss it, right? So it's just hard that being right in the middle of town, a couple hundred yards from this hotel, no one saw it for almost 2 months. I
Yeah.
have a difficult time buying that.
Yeah, no, it's bizarre.
Weird.
It's really weird. Um and it just there's so much there it just like questions beget questions with this case, I think. And it's not often in a missing persons case we sort of like focus on we tend to find cases that do have like pieces of compelling evidence for the most part, yeah, Jennifer Kesse, all the video of Chance, Engelbert, but this is like actual physical evidence, and much like Chance with the cell phone pinging and everything, but it's so bizarre, like that it just went quiet and then it worked, and then it was just never heard from again, you know.
Yeah.
And I look, guys, leave a comment. Maybe someone understands cell phones better than I do, and maybe, but for it to be 30 below Celsius, 30 below 0 Celsius, and if it had been just sitting there and then it just like happened to ping, and then it like finally died, but like for so many hours that it just I don't know. It just seems really, really unlikely to me.
It makes you think somebody might have been charging it, right? And if Liam was the one charging it, well, then why wasn't he picking up everybody's phone calls? And then that kind of leads to the next natural step, which would be maybe it wasn't Liam charging that phone. Who was it?
100%.
Yeah,
100, yeah, and then that goes to the foul play and who was
right.
involved and who was with him. Who was with him or who had his stuff, right? And then if they had his stuff, then where was he? And where is he?
Why is this money missing?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, this poor family. Well, guys, obviously, there's a lot of questions here. And we'd love to know what you think. As always, let's have a conversation about it. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think. We've got an interview with Liam's dad coming up as well. And we're going to chase some other people in this case. I mean, I think obviously the people that I'd really like to talk to here are the friends that were with him on this trip. I
Hmm.
don't know if that's going to happen, but we're certainly going to try. And I don't think we're going to talk to an investigator here because this case seems to be so active and still so young, really, in the the lifetime of a missing persons case, that I don't think it's likely that we're going to talk to an investigator anytime soon. Um,
No.
but
No, and it's still active, like you said. I mean, I don't think that they're probably at the point where they're willing to to talk to somebody like us. That
no,
usually comes a little further down the line.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, guys, we're so curious to hear what you think. As usual, leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, if you really like what we're doing and you support this mission, you want to hear more of us trying to help family members get their stories out, consider becoming a member. We have the title card up at the end. All you got to do is click join below to learn more about what that means, but it does help us do what we're trying to do. Miles, anything else before we wrap it up?
We're a podcast. You can get us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, anywhere where you listen to your podcast. We're really trying to grow ourselves on that platform as well, guys. So if you want to help us out, even if you love watching us on YouTube, just go and subscribe. You can ignore it. I have a lot of podcasts I'm subscribed to on my phone that I never listen to. I
Yeah.
just haven't gone and unsubscribed. So just give us a follow. Just it helps boost us. Okay. We appreciate you guys, and we appreciate the support and elevating these stories, getting these family stories out. Links are coming up for if you want to follow what's going on with Liam's story on social media, or where the groups are, or if you have any info, if you are watching this and you're someone who did see something that night and you want to speak to the police, everything's coming up after Sean and I stop talking. So just keep an eye for that, and we'll see you on the next one.